What if the man behind the most famous Bible translation was also madly in love with men? Hi there, I'm Chris with a K, and welcome back to This Week in Queer History, where we celebrate queer moments and icons that I wish I had known about as a young gay kid growing up in conservative America. This week, we're exploring a royal figure whose influence is everywhere, yet whose truth has been quietly hidden in the margins. He gave the world the King James Bible, but also wrote gushing letters to his male favorites and created a court where queerness lived openly, if only for those at the top. Yep, this week we're exploring the complicated and fascinating life of King James I of England, the Bible's namesake, and a historical queer figure like no other.
This week in queer history, stories told with love and glee.
Let's go back to June 19th, 1566. James Charles Stewart is born in Edinburgh Castle to Mary, Queen of Scots, and Henry Stewart, Lord Darnley. Just over a year later, his father is murdered, his mother is imprisoned, and baby James becomes King James VI of Scotland. Talk about a traumatic toddlerhood. Fast forward to 1603. Queen Elizabeth I dies, and James ascends to the English throne, uniting the crowns of Scotland and England. He becomes James I of England and the 6th of Scotland, ruling over a newly fused kingdom and ushering in the Jacobean era. So why is he important? Well, for one, James was highly educated. He was obsessed with theology, political theory, and the divine right of kings. He commissioned what would become the King James Bible in 1604, with the intent of creating a standardized translation that would unite religious factions. The translation was finally published in 1611 and remains one of the most influential works in the English language. That's right, the most famous version of the Bible was authorized by a man whose favorite term of endearment for another man was sweet child and wife to me. So let's talk about his favorites, because when James played favorites, it wasn't subtle. First came Esme Stewart, a French cousin 20 years his senior, who arrived in Scotland in 1579. James, then just 13, was smitten. He wrote of Esme, "I thank God that I have found someone I can love." The relationship scandalized the Scottish nobles, who viewed Esme's Catholicism and influence as threats. Esme was eventually exiled, but James reportedly never recovered from the heartbreak. Then came Robert Carr, a dashing young courtier who caught James's eye when he fell off a horse at a jousting match. James rushed to his side and helped him recover and appointed him to a series of high-ranking positions, including Earl of Somerset. Their relationship was intense, but Carr fell from grace after being implicated in a murder scandal. But James's most famous and long-lasting relationship was with George Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham. Their affection was public, passionate, and well documented. James wrote letters saying, "I desire only to live in this world for your sake." They shared rooms, political power, and a bond that scandalized some and inspired awe in others. To be clear, queer relationships in royal courts weren't rare, but the degree of intimacy and influence James allowed his favorites was unprecedented. His affection translated into lands, title, and influence. George Villiers became arguably the most powerful man in England, second only to the king. Despite this, James continued to position himself as a moral and religious leader. He promoted strict codes of behavior and issued sermons about piety. And this is where things get complicated and, frankly, very relatable. James ruled over a nation divided by religion, class, and social expectations. He needed to be the symbol of unity and virtue, even while loving in ways that society and scripture may not have agreed with. This paradox is not unfamiliar to those of us raised in religious environments where we're told to love our neighbors unless, of course, we love them too much. That contradiction makes James's story really fascinating. How he could authorize a Bible that would become the basis for centuries of moral regulation of queer people, while at the same time he was sharing beds and riches with other men. Talk about living between two worlds. And yet his queerness wasn't a secret. Contemporaries, they commented on it. Courtiers gossiped. Foreign ambassadors recorded their observations. Some said it was scandalous, and others just accepted it as part of court life. Was James gay? Was he bi, pan, fluid? We don't know what he thought of himself, and they didn't use those labels at the time. But we do know that he had emotional, romantic, and sexual connections with men that were real, powerful, and world-shaping. Oh, how easy it is to break the rules when you're the one making them. King James's story has me thinking a lot about power, hypocrisy, and the double standards that we live with and through. He helped create one of the most influential texts in history, the King James Bible, and yet he lived a life full of contradictions, preaching one thing and doing another. It's a tale as old as time, right? Growing up in Mormon Utah, I saw a lot of that. We were told to love our neighbors, but only if they fit the mold. We were taught compassion, but only within certain rules. I remember how hard it was to even think outside of those expectations, let alone live beyond them. I think about how James got to bend the rules because he had power. He could commission a Bible and sleep with his favorite duke in the same decade. But for the rest of the people around him, there were real consequences, and there still are. It makes me wonder, what if we stopped making rules for other people? What if we followed fewer commandments and lived with more compassion? What if we stopped using sacred text as weapons and started using them as windows into our shared humanity? King James was a man of contradictions, and yet in those contradictions, I see the realness of queerness. Complex, layered, defiant. I see someone who tried to carve out space for love even while reinforcing systems that hurt others. Yeah, it's messy, but it's how he lived his life. That's why I tell these stories, because they help us hold that paradox, the pain and the pride, the hypocrisy and the humanity. So hopefully we learn something and do different. So what do you think? Was King James a queer icon, a cautionary tale, or somewhere in between? Let me know in the comments. I love to hear how these stories make you think and feel. And if this episode stirred something inside of you, you might want to click on the video popping up right over here. It's another great look into a moment of queer history. And don't forget to sign up for the mailing list. Link is down in the description below. Until next time, stay strong, stay bold, and keep making history.